All right. Well, this is Jenny Clark with Solvability, and today I've got a very special guest. It's Russ Barnes, and he's going to be talking about becoming purposefully profitable. So welcome, Russ. How's it going today?
It's going great, Jenny. I'm so pleased to be on your show.
Well, I'm certainly glad to have you here. I know that we met several years ago, and I just love being in your presence because you're so strategic. You're such a strong leader, and you give me things that I need because I'm a little erratic. Some people say I chase too many things. And even in the conversations that I've had with you, just on a 20 or 30-minute sit down, it has been so beneficial to me. And so I'm so glad to share you with the Florida GovCon community audience. So tell us a little bit about Sistro Consulting, if you would.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. This evolved out of a passion in my life for being an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a child. I raked leaves and shoveled snow and did whatever I could to earn money, delivering newspapers, anything that I could. And as I moved through my high school years and looked to see what I was going to do with my life, it was sort of an unwritten rule in my house that we were all going to college. And I didn't really know how that was going to happen, but I did well on my SATs, and the various services contacted me. I was particularly interested in the Air Force mission, and I selected that, and I spent 27 years on active duty. I never planned on 27. My goal was to do 4 years and get out and make some real money. But the leadership opportunities in the Air Force really inspired me. And the way the Air Force functioned during my time, I really had the opportunity to develop my entrepreneurial skills. I had many jobs that I was chosen to do in which I had no background experience, and I had to figure it out as I went along. And that is a real skill for an entrepreneur. So when I retired,
Absolutely.
Yes. When I retired, I decided this is my opportunity. I'm going to learn how to be an entrepreneur, and this is going to be what I do for the rest of my life. And what I found was that there were no strategic approaches. No one had a strategic approach that could help me understand how to be successful. There was a ton of great information, a ton of great support, much of it for free. But it didn't help me do what I really needed to know how to do, which was to make money. That's why we go into business. And so I started to look around and really came to the point where I figured that if I was going to have that approach, I would have to create it myself. And that's what got me started on the path. And Sistro stands for Systems, Strategies, and Organization, because I found that those three things are key and were key to my effectiveness in my first business. And so now I'm on a path to share those things with as many people as I can and in as many ways as I can.
That is so valuable, Russ. And I liked what you were talking about, how your military service prepared you for these leadership roles. And in working with veteran business owners, my main observation is when they're calling me to ask a question, they're direct about it, they're yes and no, and they're also like, these are the resources we have to work with, and we're going to get this job done. And I love that.
Right. And
so I've also,
and what it is and what it came down to for me was that it's a mindset. It's the mentality you have when you approach the types of things that you need to accomplish to become profitable in your company. And I really focus on the profitability, especially for what the Small Business Administration characterizes as the micro business owner. When you've got 9 employees or less, and when you're generating less than $50,000 in annual revenue, it's you. And you don't have many other resources to draw upon to be able to become productive and profitable. And so it all comes from what you have in your head and how you approach the types of tasks that are in front of you. And so what I did is I talked to a bunch of different business owners, and I asked them, what made you successful and what made you profitable? And based upon the answers that I received, I created a couple of models that I felt were more applicable to the small business owner. And it all goes to being able to make the right decision in the right at the right time, in the right sequence, so that you can achieve the desired results and maximize the resources that you do have available.
I think that's so important, Russ, that you created something that's specifically for small business in that early stage. There are universities teaching classes in business school that never address that. And so you have created that information for people to learn how to grow their business and do so profitably. So
right.
I want to point out right before I go to the next slide is how do people can get in touch with you. So you're at www.systro.org, SYSTRO.org. And you want to call out your phone number and your email for us and your contact?
Yes, 813-520-5770 is my telephone number. That number is a cell phone, so you can text if you would prefer to do that. And my email is russ@systro.org. I also am fairly active on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is linkedin.com/in/RC Barnes. And I love to get in touch with you through any of those mediums.
Oh, I'm with you. It's easier for me to get a text. They don't get mixed up with everything. And I do a lot of messaging on LinkedIn. I don't lose as much there.
Right.
So, Russ, let's talk about organizational strategy for small business. But I also would like to talk about your why about it and what you do and how you do it.
Okay. When I retired, as I mentioned a little earlier, I was determined to be successful as an entrepreneur. I took all of the courses through the Small Business Administration. I had a SCORE counselor. I worked with the Small Business Development Center. And I realized that what they were telling me to do was accurate. It was correct. It was the right thing. However, it still wasn't helping me to make money. Doing a business plan is certainly important, and it must be done, but it was requiring me to do work over in one direction when what I needed to be doing to make money was over in an opposite direction. So there's this hope that if I do this business plan right, then eventually it's going to translate into dollars. And so the thought I had was, well, then if there's going to be a time gap between doing the business plan and making money, what should I be doing that would eliminate the time gap? And what I came to realize was that if I focus on what I call the business model, or what many people call the business model, then I could work on the business model and make money at the same time. And so what I call the business model is when you look at your most profitable product and you connect that with your most profitable customer, and you spend most of your time solving that equation, then what you do on a daily basis and how you think on a daily basis will eventually, and probably sooner than later, translate into revenue in your company. Once you've got revenue coming in, now you have choices. Now you can begin to take advantage of what the Small Business Administration and the SCORE counselors have to offer, because when they say, put together a business plan, you have resources to be able to do that effectively, to be able to have experts to come in and help you, to have experts to work with you on your social media and on your, on any of those other things that you need to get done, your website, for example. So this is what got me started on that path, and I've been testing that ever since. And I've actually enrolled in a PhD program with Benedictine University. It's a PhD in organization development with a focus on organization design. My dissertation is going to be on organization design for small business. And the goal is to validate these models and validate these approaches through scholarly rigor and add to the practitioner outcomes that I'm seeing that are happening right now with the business owners that I work with. And so
that's going to be so valuable.
Yes. And the reason why I got into the PhD program was not so much for the certification. That's great. That's a nice little thing to have after your name. But what was more important was connecting with people who had been doing organizational strategy and organization design work for 40 to 50 years. This is not something that's new. The only difference is that the work they've been doing has been for large corporations, and it hasn't been targeted for the small business owner. So I'm translating that into what the small business owner needs to know and understand to be effective. So I call Sistro, which is my company in the center, I call that my translator from the school speak that I get in the PhD program to the street speak that I use when I talk with the small business owners who really need to use that information to be effective and profitable. And then I translate the street speak back to school speak. And so I'm really bringing those two communities, the scholarly community and the practitioner community together. And that's the goal. And that's why I'm so excited about being in the program.
Well, this sounds like a real breakthrough approach to me, being able to integrate that. And when you were saying, okay, pick your biggest customer and your most profitable line and focus on that as a revenue first, boy, that is great advice for any small business owners. I'm thinking, I need to be doing that.
Yes, and we love our products. We absolutely love our products. I'm no different than anyone else. Given the choice between working on my product and going out to sell something, I would probably work on my product because it's fun and because it's our identity. It's what we love to do. But when we build that product, we can't just build it for ourselves. We have to build it for someone. People out there are experiencing some type of pain, and many of us, most of us, and I would even say all of us, will pay for pain relief. And so when we look at our product, we have to continually ask ourselves, how is this going to relieve someone's pain? And that drives us to think about the customer. What does the customer need? What does the customer want? And then it allows us to put together a product that meets the basic requirement and then look to the customer to help us improve because we're doing it on their behalf. And these are just some of the mindset things that I will sit down with a business owner and work through. Because when we talk about how I do what I do, a couple of things I learned along the way. Number one is if you decided to be in business for yourself, you have a sense of confidence and a belief in your ability to be successful. So you don't want someone to tell you what to do. You want someone who can collaborate with you and fill gaps in your knowledge. So you're the expert in your business. And I know you are, Jenny. I see what you do. I see how you work. I see your expertise. You know what you do. On the other side, when you look at building a business or building a company, that may not be an area where you have had tremendous experience. And the things that you've done to this point to be successful in your company have been based upon, well, let me try this and see how this works. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So there's kind of a trial and error approach that happens in there. And you try to be strategic and you try to be purposeful about how you go about that. But without a framework, it's a real challenge. So when you take a look at putting together this purposeful approach, if you start with your customer, the customer will let you know what your path should look like moving forward. And that's very, very important. So when I sit down with a business owner, we say, we look at who is your customer, what is your customer's pain, how does your skill, talents, and ability come to bear in helping that customer relieve their pain? And then it just makes so many other decisions down the line become much easier. It makes it easier to make those right decisions in the right time, in the right order. And in the end, to become purposefully profitable.
You're so right, and I'm even visualizing you and I having a workshop or retreat and bringing people in to talk to them about that, because these are things that I struggle with on a regular basis, trying to figure out how do I make my business about running solvability and have people doing the actions for me that I need to get to my customers and do it effectively. And there's so much more observation that has to happen. And what I really appreciate about what you're saying is that we have to have people that we're collaborating with that can observe us and give us the guidance that we need to do to get on the right path. But I could just see having a way that we have a group of people together and do whiteboard strategy sessions and go through your program and find ways to make this work.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're talking about that.
Yes. I'm excited about it. I think there are just so many options and opportunities for doing that. And that's the way I really deploy my information. I'm an educator. I love teaching. I love reading. I love learning. I love teaching. And I get my information out through presentations, seminars, and workshops. And we talked about online opportunities so we can reach an even broader audience. But I am so focused on the customer. My customer is that small business owner who's struggling, who wants to become profitable, successful, have all the determination they need, and they just need a framework in order to bring their creativity to bear.
Absolutely. So when I'm talking to business owners, and of course my specialty is federal contractors, I can work with them once they're in what I call the second stage, which is where they've learned how to get contracts and they've learned how to move forward. And now what they're looking for is, okay, I've got my customers. Now I've got to make my business efficient and effective. The other struggle that I think they all have is the same thing that I do. Okay, if I'm not working on my product, how do I spend the time on revenue? And you've talked about ways to do that, which is basically get your basic minimally viable product out there, start selling it, bring in the revenue so you know where you go. But what's unique about your approach, Russ, is that you would be able to help me put it in the right order and execute.
Yes, absolutely. And and that's what it's all about. And that understanding now, when you look at the framework, then it helps you to, on a almost a minute by minute basis, say, is what I'm working on right now driving me towards the successful outcomes that I'm looking for? And then you begin to see the value of the effort. So you can say, oh, well, I'm working on my product right now, but my product is fine. So then I need to take a look maybe at how I'm communicating to the external community, to my customers, or maybe I need to be working on that specific connection to those people who are willing to pay for my product. And then you can say, okay, am I looking in the right place? Am I communicating the right message? Am I putting the right information out so that they can find me, and then they can make the connection and create a value for value exchange? Or maybe you've gotten those customers that you have, and it's a time for you to spend your effort on creating an infrastructure so that you can deliver that value to them in a timely manner and on a consistent basis. Because once they begin to depend upon you for solutions to their problems, you don't want to let them down.
That is so true. That's so true. So, Russ, you've got a book that you just published. Tell us about that.
Yes, I'm excited about it. It's called it's part of a series, and the series is called Your Amazing Itty Bitty Book Series. The title of my book is Your Amazing Itty Bitty Small Business for Service Members book. Well, I was working with a client in Baltimore, and I saw that she had a book, and it was Your Amazing Itty Bitty Book. And I said, I like that. So I asked, how did you publish it? And she put me in contact with the publishers who are in California. And as I communicated with them, they're telling me that people don't have time to read full-length business books anymore. And so what they'll do is go through and they'll grab little bits and pieces. They'll highlight things here or there. That's how they'll absorb the business book. So they said, we want to create a series that is the highlights. It's only the highlights. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. That really works for me. I can get that done in the amount of time that I have. And so I wrote Your Amazing Itty Bitty Small Business for Service Members book. And it's available out on Amazon. And on one side, it has, this is what you should think about. And on the other side, it says, this is how you get that accomplished. So it's a 30-page book, but it's very powerful and it's full of resources.
Well, I'm so excited, and I've got it ready to read, and I want to learn more. The other thing you're doing, and this shows me a way that you can do this, that you've got a podcast you're doing, is it every day?
Every day, 5 days a week. It's 5 days a week. So
so you're taking weekends off.
Yeah, take the weekends off. Yeah.
So what's the name of it, and tell us some of your favorites.
Some of my favorites.
Right, the topics that you got.
Oh, so
What it's
what I've
about.
done is I've created two core models for Cisco. One is an organization design model, and then the other one is a progression model. And in my podcast, I've taken the two models and cross-matched them. One has 5 components, and the other one has 6 components. So that gives me basically 30 sessions, and then I do those 5 days a week. So this is a 150 session series. And the way it's structured is I have Money Math Monday, where I talk about a formula that will help you understand the financial aspects of growing your company. On Tuesday, I have tips and techniques, just any of those little hacks or different techniques that you can use to become profitable in your company. And then on Wednesday, it's Words of Wisdom Wednesday. I take a quote and then I break it down in terms of profitability. On Thursday, I have a book that I recommend. It's called Teach Yourself Thursday. And then Friday, it's Fame and Fortune Friday. And I talk about an entrepreneur who has become purposefully profitable. So that makes it very organized, very structured. And I just go down through the modules in which I have based the Sistro program on. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I particularly like the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday because I'm really bringing in the stories. And if people love stories, I love stories. And you get more of the stories out of the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, where Monday and Tuesday is much more teaching and education.
Well, it sure does make sense because we've all got to have some structure in our business, and being able to set aside time every day to think about strategy and focus on it. That's the way you laid it out. I love the idea of Math Monday because I always approach my Monday as the most structured day of the week where I'm going to take care of urgent issues and leave time in that. And I've got specific meetings that I have with different coaches or my team so I can figure out where I want to go. And on the math side, I have something I call government contracting math from my clients that I talk to them, because if you don't understand the underlying mathematical formula for profitability, you're not going to be able to go there. On tips and tech, I would think you got something new every time for that, don't you? Is there like a favorite one out of tips and tech?
Let me think. There are a bunch. So,
I know we were talking about social media and artificial intelligence and everything else, and I feel like one of the things we started off our conversation with this morning was the whole idea of if you can't move toward social media and podcasting and a different way to deliver your content, then you're not going to be with it. So I guess you've got a tip on that, don't you?
Yes, that will be. I don't have one of those. I haven't come to that point yet because there's a progression through the model as well. So the first set of 25 episodes is focused on personal development. What do you need to do to prepare yourself to be an effective entrepreneur? And in fact, when you go through those exercises, you may realize that you don't want to be an entrepreneur, which is a great realization before you get started on that path. I talk about talent. How do you determine what your talents are and how you can bring those to a community of people who are experiencing a certain level of pain? And you can relieve that pain using your talent. So those are some of the things. So one of the tips that I just gave this past Tuesday, which was episode 43, is market research will help you make more money. Many times we try to determine within ourselves and within our own within the own availability of information what people need. And so market research is so important. And so in that Tips and Techniques Tuesday, I talk about market research, and then I also give some ideas of how you actually go about collecting that information in a way that it's applicable. So I talk a little bit about, the SWOT technique. There's another one called SOAR. There's another one called PEST. And I get into the details of what those actually mean and how you apply them. I'm very much into applicability. If it's not actionable, then it's really not worth talking about. We want to be actionable.
Absolutely. And what you're also talking about in this professional development, personal development series is trying to make sure that people have a way that they fit with the direction they're going, because otherwise they'll get to that business and hate it. And what I also feel like is important is that you're giving them several different options, because I know that I'll read business book after business book and I'll say, I'm not ready. Oh, I'm not doing it like John Lee Dumas, so I can't be successful. And it's like we all have to figure out what works for us, what challenges us, what makes it go. And it sounds like that's something you've really focused on.
Yes, it is. One of the things that I've realized about my talent, and you mentioned it earlier, is organization. I didn't realize at first that most people were not organized. And I thought it was so easy that it was just anybody could do it. Over time, I realized that this is a special talent that I had. And then I also realized that strategy was a special talent that I had. And we often run away from our talents because we think they're easy and we think anybody can do it, when in fact, we need to embrace our talents. And so then the next level for me was bringing simplicity to complexity. And I read all these books, and just as you mentioned, you look at and you say, well, maybe I'm not ready to do that, or I can't do this the way that person did that. But you want to pull those little nuggets out that help you advance in the direction in which you want to go. So that's why I've structured the podcast the way I have, because it walks down through these various resources that you have available. And you can now get a little bit of information, some pieces of information to say, you know what, that one will work for me. That's something that I can use right now. And because I put it in the progression, when you start with personal development, those books that I suggest in personal development are books that can help you to do what you need to do, to learn what you need to do at the stage in which you are currently located. So that's very important. That progression is just very important to follow. You're absolutely right.
Well, when you did talk about progression, the main thing that I was picking up on is you said that we want to have the right decisions in the right order. And I always talk to people about having a roadmap, because if I don't have a list that I've evaluated with my client, which I call a benchmarking assessment, I don't know what they already know. And so I'll repeat things they don't need. Or a lot of times when I look at the roadmap, I could say, well, I could knock out 7, 14, and 9 if we did this in this order. But we also have to be able to present ourselves to help people understand that this is something we have a unique expertise in, without overwhelming them with, okay, we're going to do it all this way, we're going to talk so much. And what I love about your approach is you're taking people down the path at a reasonable pace as well.
Yes. Strategy is really about one thing, Jenny, and it is patience. When you have a strategy, you can have patience, because you can't run a marathon in 5 or 10 steps. It takes a lot of steps, and you take those steps in order. You can't hop, skip, and jump your way, to finish a marathon any faster. You have to take step by step. And it's the same way when you're building your company. So when you start with a perspective of strategy and you outline, you first determine where you want to be. And I like to start with exit strategy as well. And it's amazing how many people I talk to who haven't given thought to their exit strategy, because they say, well, I'm not there. I don't have any idea about what type of an exit strategy I should have. I'm just getting started. Well, Stephen Covey said it, begin with the end in mind. You should determine what you want out of this company in the long run, and then you can begin to walk it back to say, okay, then what do I need to do, and how do I need to use my resources to get from where I am to where I want to be? And I love using timelines and milestones, because when you have a series of milestones and you have a timeline, you can accelerate your profitability. You can accelerate your progress towards profitability, because it's all there. Now, you're still going to hit obstacles. You're still going to have things change. The environment is going to consistently change around you. But when you have your milestones laid out, you know where center line is. And when you get distracted or you get diverted or you get disrupted, you know where you need to go to get back to center line, get back on track, and then you can make an assessment. Am I ahead of where I need to be? Am I behind where I need to be? And you can make those adjustments. But that's what strategy, in my opinion, is all about. And it gives you patience. You can say, well, I know that that task needs to be done, but I'm not there yet. So I'll just wait. I'll just do what I need to do and get done today to position myself for when I'm ready to get that next task done.
Well, I love the way you talk about getting these things done in the right order and having a calm, steady process toward it and knowing where you're going to go. That makes so much difference to have that. So
Yes.
I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, I know you're a big, big reader. What is your favorite book on business? Which one do you quote the most, do you think?
The book I quote the most is E-Myth Revisited, without a doubt. Because in many cases, I'm talking to business owners who are just getting started. And when I first got started, I was taking a course with the Small Business Administration in how to start a business. And there was a guy there who was taking a refresher. And he said, if any of you have not read the E-Myth Revisited, you need to read that book. I went out and got it and I read it, and it set the stage for many of the things that I do, because it talks about the entrepreneurial seizure, why we become entrepreneurs, and what the shortcomings are as a result of our past. So we decide we have a talent, or we decide we have a skill. We think we can go out and just attract customers and everything will be great. But there are so many more things that go into business. And the E-Myth talks about how to frame your company so that you can wear all the hats, get all the things done. And then when you get to a position where you can bring in help, you know who to bring in and when to bring them in. And it's a nice little framework for becoming successful in your company. And so that started the framework. And when I had my first business, I'd read the E-Myth Visited, and then Michael Gerber wrote another book called E-Myth Mastery, which was more of a checklist type of approach. And I kept the E-Myth Mastery on my file cabinet, and I would refer to that book every day in helping me to make sure I was paying attention to the right things. So the E-Myth is one that I recommend highly, and probably more than any others.
Well, that's always been one of my favorites too, because I think about the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur, and it's so easy to get into that technician thing, because when I'm solving a specific problem for somebody, it gives me so much positive feedback. But I have to remember that I can't serve and grow my company unless I have the other pieces. And the entrepreneur with me wants to go do networking all the time, but I can't bring in profit if I'm always out talking to people and not doing actual work or developing those mechanisms. My favorite book is A Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, because what I recognized is so much is about practice.
Yes. Yeah, I love that one also. That's a favorite. That's a definite favorite of mine.
Yeah. So Fame and Fortune Friday, what's your episode going to be coming up this week?
So my episode coming up this week will be about Michael Dell, because where I am in the progression is talking about product development as it pertains to leadership. And actually, let me change that. Product development as it pertains to management. And so, talking a little bit about market analysis, I talked about business model generation. That was one of the topics this week. And so Michael Dell is going to be the target of this Fame and Fortune Friday. So just to give you a list of some of the folks who have been there, I've covered already Warren Buffett, Richard Branson, Jack Ma, Elon Musk, Sarah Blakely. These are just some of the folks that I've covered already on Fame and Fortune Fridays.
Wow. Well, it sounds like this is something we definitely need to get people to sign up for. So remind me again what the name of your podcast is.
It's the Purposefully Profitable Podcast.
Okay, so they should just be able to
And
go to iTunes on their phone and subscribe to it.
yes, it's available on iTunes. If you do a Google search, you'll see it available on YouTube, and very easy to find.
Well, good, good. I'm looking forward to it. So, Russ, it's been great having you on today. I've already learned a lot more things that we need to follow up on and talk about. And I know that you're going to be joining me in Orlando next February 28th and March the 1st
Yes.
for the Florida GovCon Summit, because we're going to have you featured in several sessions talking about the purposefully profitable approach that you've
Yes.
come up with. So
Right.
just as I wrap up, I want to tell people that Solvability works with small businesses who are federal contractors, and we're trying to help you move faster as a second stage federal contractor so that you can grow your company faster. And the way we do it is we've got 3 levels of programs. One's called a GovCon Boot Camp, which is a completely online training session about the back office, the accounting, the government contracting practices that you need for pricing and proposals as well. I've got an annual program called Prime Focus for those people that want me to work with them on an annual basis on specific items that we know that we need to grow. And I use my background having set up systems and run these processes for hundreds of different companies to do that. And then my highest level program is called Strategic Scalability, where companies have reached that point where they know they have to upgrade all their systems. And I see them replace them one at a time and then wonder why they don't talk. So I try to help them take a strategic approach. So our focus for Florida GovCon Summit is we're going to have matchmaking. We're going to have a lot more breakout sessions. And we're going to focus on collaboration also for the all small mentor protege. If anybody wants to reach me, you can go to my solvability.com website. That's SOLV and the word ability.com, or you can text me at 256-882-6276. Like Russ, I'm out on LinkedIn a lot, and that's probably the easiest way to find me. You could just type in Jenny W. Clark, and I should come up. So, Russ, thanks so much for being on today, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we create next.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, Jenny. It's been a lot of fun. We've been exchanging tremendous information, and I look forward to helping in any way that I can. So,
all right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Russ.
Thank you.
All right.